and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who calls the West Coast the second best coast. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
That's how rap feuds start, my friend. I'm not saying anything about any coasts whatsoever.
So yesterday we did Major League Soccer Eastern Conference very specific predictions to preview the 2018 season. Obviously today we're going cross-country. We're taking a 5-hour flight. It is the Western Conference, very specific predictions and preview.
Although because the United States is huge, I think you could take like a 3-hour flight and still be in the Western Conference.
That's true.
They extend out.
That's true. I like to cover all of it.
Yeah,
So before we begin with the Western Conference, I just want to mention an update I think is big news on yesterday's Eastern Conference preview. Ezequiel Barco out for 4 to 6 weeks. The new Atlanta winger that everyone's excited to see. But it's not really bad news if you're an Andrew Carlton fan, because that moves him one step up the pecking order.
One step up the pecking order. We're not sure how many steps he is away from starting or getting consistent minutes, but that probably means he is like a likely or possible substitute in the event that Atlanta are chasing a game, want to bring on some flair.
So we're saying maybe match day squad at least this weekend for Andrew Carlton and Atlanta United.
Let's hope so. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to guarantee anything because, again, they're 17 and 18, and it's weird to guarantee that the teenagers are going to be in there.
This is true. Okay, and once again, the reason we're not doing our preview in the sort of classic podcast website style of here's who's going to make the playoffs, etc., we do have very specific predictions.
We sure do.
Instead, we drill down into the weird stuff. So let's drill down into the weird stuff.
Let's do, but first, one quick correction. I tweeted it out. I just wanted to say, so I said very quickly yesterday that Jose Aja might start at center back for Orlando City. As I said, that is very much unlikely given that he now plays for Vancouver. I sent there for $125,000. It seems like there's a little bit of a pipeline between Orlando and Vancouver because that was the whole Breck Shea, Giles Barnes trade that happened. So that has happened, and then Lamina Sane has come in to replace Aja, and he is a former Bordeaux, former Werder Bremen now center back who will come in and likely if not start right away, then start very soon. Okay,
so we are fully updated on the Eastern Conference.
I think so.
Let's get to the West.
Okay, there's a few more updates actually that pertain to the East, but we'll get to that in this report.
Things are fast moving, right? There are transfer deals happening even as we're recording, which won't be included because they haven't gone through yet.
In fact, I will say this. I stayed up very late to finish most of my research and get my predictions done because I didn't...
Ditto.
There are occasional moments where, like, if we do this type of show, I'll show up and be like, oh, I never did a prediction for them. We're going to have to figure that one out real fast. So I didn't want that, so I did all of my predictions. 2 of them have already happened. So I'm not going to count those. I did 2 more today.
Let me know what you predicted.
I will when we get to them. I will tell you.
All right. Well, can I start us off then with, we're going alphabetical through the Western Conference. The Colorado Rapids. Colorado Rapids are up first. It's an interesting season. There is a new head coach, former New Zealand men's national team head coach Anthony Hudson is in. He has brought wing-backs with him. He's going to play a proper 3-5-2. It's weird to get a coach who's fully committed to the 3-5-2.
Did he bring them from New Zealand? Like he shipped them over?
He brought the concept of wing-backs to Colorado from New Zealand. He also brought Edgar Castillo from Liga MX. Edgar Castillo is going to be his left wing back. And Marlon Hairston, do you remember of the January camp? I don't think he made the final US national team roster, but he made the camp. Marlon Hairston will be the right wing back. I'm working my way towards my very specific prediction. One important thing to know, Anthony Hudson, he's done the classic foreign coach thing, and he's brought in a bunch of national team players from the national team he coached.
Oh, yeah?
So 3 players he signed, Kip Colvey, Tommy Smith, Declan Wynn, 3 Kiwis, straight into the Colorado Rapids roster.
So there are mixed results when that happens at club level, when like the manager from a smaller club moves to the larger one and takes his most prominent player.
Yeah.
That sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I don't know about national team managers.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, that will be a wrinkle to watch.
And then it's how highly do you rate New Zealand players, right?
Also that.
Because, they sometimes go to the World Cup, but they also spend a lot of time playing against, the Cook Islands.
Yes.
So it's pretty tough to say, right?
American Samoa and Fiji. You never know.
There is a name that you know that's joined the Colorado Rapids. Do you remember Enzo Martinez?
I sure
of the
do.
Charlotte Independents. We were very impressed with this midfielder,
and
Uruguayan
I think it's a
midfielder.
Good pickup by them.
I do too. He looked, with all respect to USL, he looked too good for USL.
Yep.
I think he'll do really well in Major League Soccer. So I think he'll be like an attacking midfielder, but also with a bit of bite to him as well, right? Not a luxury player by any means.
In doing all of like the Kickers home games last year, doing the color commentary respectively, I would say that there were a handful of players in the league who I thought, like, this is not fair. They should not be here. He was one of them. I would say he might be the number one of those players.
Interesting.
So it is no surprise to me that he is no longer in the USL, has now made his way to MLS.
So as well as the New Zealand players and the Charlotte Independence player, Colorado Rapids have signed 2 Wolverhampton Wanderers players. Jack Price.
Right.
Jack Price has joined from Wolves, and recently Joe Mason, the sort of striker/winger, has joined from Wolves. I know when a Wolves player signs for Colorado because I get a lot of @s at my personal account on Twitter asking me about these players. So I'm going to give that very quick. This is my prediction. This is just a quick background. Jack Price will do really well, really smart, sharp passer, midfield. Joe Mason will do better than the 4 goals he's scored in the past few seasons for Wolves and elsewhere.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Here's my prediction. Very specific prediction. Colorado Rapids will sign at least one more Wolves player before the end of the Major League Soccer season.
Is that just because you think there's like a pipeline established and maybe you'll get a loan in, something like that?
So there is a pipeline. And it's not just that Kevin Doyle was there and he passed the word on. Darren Baisley, who is Anthony Hudson's assistant coach. He was the assistant coach at New Zealand. He is now the assistant coach at Colorado Rapids. Former Wolves player. I remember watching Darren Baisley play for Wolves. Neil Emblin, English midfielder, also former Wolves player, also former assistant coach to Hudson at New Zealand. Apparently, I checked his Twitter yesterday. He's waiting on a visa to get to be able to work for the Colorado Rapids. So that is the Wolves connection. There are 2 ex-Wolves players on the staff.
So that makes sense. Yeah. And I think is a little bit better than your San Jose prediction last year where you basically said, oh, there's some connections to Roma, so they're going to sign a DP from Roma. And then neither one of us could come up with a likely candidate for who that would be. This one seems a little bit more realistic.
To MLS?
I think that's not happening. Maybe De Rossi? That didn't seem likely either, and I think we left it there.
Well, here's why I think they will genuinely, they will sign some more Wolves players. So obviously that pipeline's there with Baisley and eventually Emblin. Wolves are, fingers crossed, knock on wood hard. Wolves are going to go up this year. Wolves have a gigantic squad. They have like 20 players out on loan right now. In the summer, they'll try and strengthen for the Premier League, but they'll also have a lot of players that they will need to either get rid of or send out on loan. So there'll be lots of Wolves players available. Colorado Rapids might be a good place for them to do some mid-season strengthening, would be those Wolves players that are getting sort of offloaded.
And this is why Colorado are considering changing their name to Vitesse Colorado. Is that correct?
Or Colorado Wanderers.
Yeah, sure.
So a couple of names for you. Duckins Nazan. Remember him?
I do.
Haiti striker?
I don't remember. Yeah, we go. Now I remember why.
He's a Wolves player right now. You remember him from the Gold Cup. He's a Wolves player, but he's on loan. He's been on loan at Oldham. I could see, a CONCACAF player ending up at the Colorado Rapids from Wolves. Also, one guy that's worth keeping an eye on, Michael Zero. He's a Polish winger/striker who did really well for Wolves, then broke his leg, then came back, then was loaned out. I think that's someone who could end up at Colorado as
I like that you've turned this from talking about the Colorado Rapids into talking about potential Wolves players and where they might end up. So that's good stuff by you.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
There. I've got a bonus prediction, if you'll indulge me.
I will.
Sam Vines. Do you know this name?
I do not.
Sam Vines is in the scouting network. We haven't received too many reports. He is a left back, 18 years old, was with the Rapids Academy, was signed as a homegrown player in the past couple weeks. Do yourself a favour, go watch a Sam Vines highlight video. You will see some Marcelo-like left backing.
Okay.
As in dominating games from left back, first to every ball, really quick passing and moving, great skills to get out of trouble. If Edgar Castillo falters, Sam Vines could get a shot at left wing back and really impress. So I really think he'll make his debut in Major League Soccer this year, despite only just signing his homegrown player contract.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So that's Sam Vines. I will watch some video of him later. But now, instead, I am going to talk to you and our listeners about FC Dallas.
I'm looking forward to this.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump straight to my prediction, which is the soft prediction is that there will be many, many articles written in the first 5 to 10 weeks with a title similar to FC Dallas is back. And that will be back in the 2016 version, not the 2017 version, as in they will be back in a good way. My strong prediction is that they will comfortably make the playoffs. That's what
FC Dallas will comfortably make the playoffs. Yes. What does that mean?
So they had a very bad season where they were still somewhat in playoff contention, and then the wheels fell off completely.
It wasn't bad enough to play the kids. Was the problem.
And I think this time around they're doing kind of a hybrid approach with that. And I think that maybe they won't be the number 1, number 2 seed, but I think that they will be in there, and it won't be really close in the final couple weeks where they have to win 2 games and hope some results go their way. I think they will be very comfortable in the lead up to the playoffs.
How many games remaining in the season when FC Dallas officially seal a playoff spot?
More than 4.
More than 4.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good number.
That's like a month. That's good enough, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why, I think, is because they've done some things that are very FC Dallas, and they have done some things that are not FC Dallas. Oscar Pereira, in the latest issue of Howler, when they did the whole breakdown of what went wrong with the U.S. national team.
Oh, the popular soccer magazine.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of it. He said basically we model ourselves too much on the European model. We should look to other areas, and I think with that in mind, he tends to look towards South America. They have done that again with young DP Santiago Mosquera. I think this was a very smart signing by them, but they've also brought in 2 defenders from Europe. Then they've brought in some homegrown players and some young players, and it just seems like they've taken this sort of overall approach of we're going to get talent where we need it, we're going to bring in young players where we need it, and I think it's going to be a much more solid team with a much stronger locker room as a result.
Oscar Pereira has done 2 things that I really cared about, which is Grana out, Reggie Cannon in. You can have a 19-year-old American playing right back with a great name.
So he got rid of, really quickly, Chris Seitz, amongst others. They got rid of Chris Seitz, Hernan Grana, Atiba Harris, Javier Morales, Walker Zimmerman. That's an average age of 31 and average appearances of 57.
That's with Walker Zimmerman bringing the average down.
Yeah, because he's 24. Yeah. So you look at that and you think they got rid of basically a bunch of older players with lots of experience, and it seems like maybe the idea is to give 3 homegrown players they signed, not including Reggie Cannon, plus 2 draft picks. They're probably going to be in the mix this season.
I talked to Travis Clark today for Top Draw Soccer Show. I thoroughly recommend you do that. Listen to that. Which MLS Youngsters 11 preview. We sort of drafted against each other. Spoiler alert, Travis was very high on Paxton Pomacal's chances of getting serious minutes for FC Dallas this year, because he's essentially been named as the backup to Mauro Diaz and, as kind of second backup on either wing as well. So there's lots of opportunity for young Paxton Pomacal to get minutes for FC Dallas, and that will almost be the fulfillment of the FC Dallas homegrown player promise, right?
I think so. So there's obviously chances for Paxton Pomacal, Reggie Cannon as well. We expect him to start as right back, at least in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
There are still some question marks.
And the end of the season and every game in between. Go on, Reggie Cannon.
But I wanted to talk for a moment about Santiago Mosquera, that young designated player, Mosquera. He's a 23-year-old Colombian winger / midfielder from Millonarios, the Colombian club. You may have heard of them. But basically what FC Dallas did...
They're the reserve team for Billionaires, right?
Or for Pablo Escobar. I think that was one of the... Or maybe that was one of the cartel in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically what they've done is they used the money they got from Walker Zimmerman being sold, allocated, what have you, to LAFC. Again, we're going to do the terminology show tomorrow. And they used that money to bring in this kid who's basically can play with either foot, can score goals, can hit free kicks. And the key thing I thought was really interesting, FC Dallas technical director Fernando Clavijo said of him, he plays specifically how Oscar would like to play. He allows us to open up space on the field for Mauro and have a strong offensive lineup. So essentially, again, they've targeted a guy who fits exactly into what they're trying to do.
Yes.
And signing a very young, exciting player in the same moment is pretty impressive.
I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but do you know who they've brought in defensively? Because what I'm concerned about is maybe Maino Figueroa playing centre-back again now that Zimmerman's out. And I remember a lot of, to mention the magazine again, defensive howlers from Figueroa last season.
So I think if you go with the consensus,
he looked like an old man,
Figueroa will be the backup. Matt Hedges will start. The other one would be a man who I think you might remember. Yes, I think you'll remember the left back, actually. He'll start at left back, is Reto Ziegler, who used to play for Juventus. Yeah, he'll be the left back. Bulgarian center back, Anton Nedjelkov of CSKA Sofia.
Not so familiar with him.
No, Bulgarian international, plays for CSKA Sofia. He'll be the other starting center back.
I'm not up on my CSKA Sofia watching.
That's fair.
It's on my DVR. I've got a DVR full of Sofia games.
Good. So those are the 2 European defenders they brought in.
Gotcha.
The only other thing that could be interesting and problematic is that basically if you start Mosquera at left wing, you start Barrios at right wing, which is what they were probably going to do, Maxi Aruzzi up top, that leaves Christian Coleman out, who is a designated player on, I think, like $2 million. So it will be interesting to see if they try to force him in some various positions or see where else he can play, or if maybe they start shopping him around and see if anybody else out there is interested. I
vote shop him around, get Brian Reynolds Jr. And Jesus Ferreira in the team.
Sure. But I think even if they have some of those issues, overall, I think they will have a much more comfortable, much stronger season this time around.
Can I put you on the spot one more time?
Sure.
Does Kellyn Acosta finish the season with FC Dallas or not?
I think so, provided that my prediction is correct and they make the playoffs comfortably.
So you think if they're doing badly by the summer, he'll be agitating for a move?
Yes. Or they might just be looking to okay, this rebuild didn't work either. Let's continue bringing more people through. Let's make money where we can. And that might mean moving to another Major League Soccer team where they would maybe be chasing the playoffs, kind of like that Piazzi thing. Or, maybe looking abroad in the summer window.
Yeah, like Acosta's passes, I prefer forward to lateral.
That fits.
Okay, ready for some Houston Dynamo talk?
I am indeed.
All right, so...
Since I was wildly wrong about them last year.
Were you? What did you say? What did you predict?
I predicted that they were going to struggle. I thought they were not going to be very good. And I thought because they had...
You had no faith in Wilmer Cabrera?
It wasn't so much him as I didn't have any faith in Leonardo, who was playing center back for them. I was uncertain about DeMarcus Beasley.
To be fair, you do have eyes.
Yes. I think it was because we had made predictions about how there's no way he should be playing for LA this season, the year before, and then here he was starting for Houston. And I predicted that they were going to have a bunch of terrible giveaways and really bad howlers. I Googled, couldn't find anything. If anything, I found them forcing howlers from other teams because of the high press they would play.
I think in hindsight, maybe Leonardo wasn't as to blame as we thought.
No, not so much. Not so much.
For the LA Galaxy debacles. Yeah. A lot of Houston counterattacking is what I remember.
Yeah, press is the wrong word. I meant pressure. With that sort of everybody run forward real fast.
Solidity and then counterattack. And especially counterattack through Elise, Kyoto, and what's his name? Maro Manotas. I should know I'm previewing, right? Maro Manotas.
That would be ideal.
Not so much Eric Torres, who is now on his bike. Eric Torres has left. Probably not on a bike. Probably on an airplane. Adios, Cuba.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be the same front three returning. Elise, very exciting. Maro Manotas, also returning. And once again, Kyoto. Here's my very specific prediction.
What you got?
Houston Dynamo will provide the first Wakanda Forever celebration in Major League Soccer 2018.
I would like to know why. I'm excited about this, and I hope you're right.
Just to give people, I know you know, but to give the backstory, do you remember Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard did the Wakanda Forever, cross your arms, cross your chest, then drop to your side. Last season, Albert Ellis, when he was scoring, performed various Black Panther celebrations.
Really?
Yep. So this is well in advance of Black Panther, the movie coming out. This is, I think, after T'Challa's appearances in Captain America: Civil War. I think he was excited for it coming. Right? He did he got down on his knees and did a fake Black Panther, showing his claws type thing.
You sure that wasn't just the Puma celebration?
Well, you could guess maybe it was that, right? But then he pulled a mask out of his shorts, put the Black Panther mask on.
That's more convincing.
And celebrated. Really? I think it was some Marvel official merchandise as well. It looked legit.
That makes sense. And maybe there's some copyright issues there. I feel like you set me up for that one. I feel like you led with the weaker argument. And then I'd be I don't know about that. And then you could be he also wore the Black Panther mask. And then I would feel foolish. But you succeeded.
I have been very specific with the Wakanda Forever thing, right? It's going to be a very specific arms across the chest, arms down. And it's mostly just, I think Albert Ellis will score pretty early because he is very, very good.
He is. We had a genius person on Twitter suggest that maybe if people didn't want scouting, like scouting obligations to have to follow a player, they could keep track of our predictions.
Ooh, yeah.
This would be a prime candidate for that because I know you, and I don't think I are going to sit through every single goal scored by Houston waiting to see if maybe they do that celebration.
Every Monday morning, I will Google Albert Ellis Wakanda Forever.
Okay. That should do it. Also, liar.
I've got another non-Marvel movie, non-Marvel Cinematic Universe related prediction. Do you know the name Thomas Martinez?
No.
I didn't either until I started researching.
Is there an H in there or no H?
No H.
Oh, then maybe I do.
Thomas Martinez. 22-year-old Argentinian playmaker, was signed sort of late summer for Houston Dynamo, and sort of, to use a phrase we explained recently, was bedding in through the back half of the season. Still got himself 2 goals and an assist.
Plant those bulbs.
As he was bedding in. So I took a look at a Houston Dynamo preseason friendly against New England Revolution that Martinez played in, just to get a look at him. What's up?
Just lucky you.
I know, it was good. I was looking for a specific player.
Yeah.
And I really like the look of Thomas Martinez. It's kind of the classic young number 10 attacking midfielder, playmaker. He's done this really good thing of always doing a good job of finding space and doing that side-on thing where he's asking for the ball, then receiving it and playing a through ball. So I predict that Thomas Martinez will get as many assists as the number on his back.
Okay.
Because he's taken the number 10 shirt.
All right.
So he'll get
10
assists for Thomas Martinez over the whole season.
I like it.
Especially with the firepower of Kyoto and Manotas and Elise up front. I love Kyoto and Elise. I love them sort of cutting inside to score. So imagine having those two cutting inside, and you've got Manotas to aim at, and you're Thomas Martinez. It's a lot of options. It's like being a quarterback with 3 receivers to aim at.
Do you think it will still be... With that in mind, do you think it will still be like sort of the sit back and then counter and like really go at teams, or do you think they'll change the game plan a little bit?
Everything I've read is that Wilmer Cabrera like played his style last year and is building on his style. So I think it will just be the same but better. Right? Which is actually rare for all my predictions.
I hope that's their team motto for the season.
The same but better. Yeah. All my previews, I've got a lot of like new. I've got an expansion team. I've got new coaches. Houston are the sort of the one team I've got that is sort of that are doubling down on, or just refining what they did last season. Yeah.
Steady in the stream. I like it. Anything else for Houston before we move on to the first of 2 Los Angeles clubs?
Check's bit of paper? No.
Okay. And I don't mean that in terms of fandom fans out there. I just mean in terms of alphabetical order.
I do, actually, so I want to give a shout out to a website that I've been reading as I do my previews, AmericanSoccerAnalysis.com. Have you found these when you've done your previews?
No. Yes, I have. Yes.
So they do a good like roundup of sort of who they
have them cited in
who they moved on, and are you going to cite them later as well? Who they moved on and sort of who they brought in, all that kind of stuff. They also throw in some really good sort of stats about like expected goals. For example, Manotas had 10.9 expected goals, scored 10 goals. So he's kind of on point, on track with his expected goals. But they had this great sentence. There's also some good writing in there. For 2017, Dynamo were like a satisfying sandwich. Delicious, but there was no misconception it was ever going to be as good as a burrito. So if 2017 was a sandwich, 2018 will be the burrito.
Okay. All right. Burritos are always the way to go.
It's a good culinary analogy.
The reason why I forgot American Soccer Analysis for a moment there is because I was trying to figure out why LA Galaxy come before LAFC in the alphabet, because I'm pretty sure F comes before G. And then I remembered altogether means it ends later. So LA and then the space and then Galaxy. That's why. I was very confused for a moment as to why I was about to talk about the LA Galaxy.
Well, let's talk about the LA Galaxy.
All right, let's do it. So I don't know if you know this, Daryl, but last season, not very good for them. Did not go well. You sort of thought that might be the case. You said basically this seems like a team that could go either way, but you had a feeling it was not going to go well. You were
all
correct.
The front office stuff looked bad after Bruce Arena left, right?
Yep, and we were correct because I think I felt similar, but I was not doing the predicting there. But yes, they had problems everywhere. The defense was especially suspect. Second most goals allowed, conceded in the entire league. 67 goals. Not great. Not great for the Galaxy. So that was a priority for them. They have strengthened. They brought in Norwegian international Jorgen Skjelvik. I'm going to say I probably did not get that right, but I tried. He's won the Norwegian title 3 straight years. He will probably start at center back. I don't know who his partner will be, but I know that that's where my prediction lies.
Do you think he's going to walk around like when he's marking a striker, he'll be like, hey, I won the Norwegian title 3 straight years?
I mean, he probably should.
What have you ever done?
Well, except that he'll be starting next.
Carlos Vela will be like, I scored in La Liga.
He'll also be starting next to Ashley Cole, who can probably run off a list of achievements. So there's that. But I don't know if his center back partner will be Steres or Siani. You can make an argument either way.
Hugo Ariano.
Less likely. Less likely to be a starter right away. But I did cheat a little bit and DM'd Wendy Thomas, who's an LA fan, to ask her thoughts. She said, and she kind of backed up what my prediction was going to be, and I felt very good about that, is that she said, like, they're both kind of the same, but I think it will probably be somebody else down the line, and that's why my prediction is that barring injury, Thomas Hilliard Arce will become a regular starter by the end of the season.
Talked about Hilliard Arce with Travis on the sort of MLS draft. He's very high on Thomas Hilliard Arce.
Yes. Yeah. I do think that every draft, I saw somebody tweet this today, write this today, that like every draft in the top 10, there is one player who kind of stands out and becomes a like club-defining player, and I feel like that could be Thomas Hilliard Arce, kind of the rock in the back for LA for years to come.
So Travis's point about Hilliard Arce was that a lot of successful college defenders, they play 4 years in college and they come out and they're very good at just being big and physical and winning headers, but the pace of Major League Soccer can be something that's a big challenge. But essentially Hilliard Arce is pretty mobile, pretty fast, and it's going to be less of a challenge for him. So you may see a guy that hits the ground running.
All right.
Yeah, hits the ground tackling.
It sounds like a man who has both hit the ground running and tackling is also Perry Kitchen, who obviously brought back.
I forgot
will start, will shield that defense. Wendy in her messages noted that he has been one of the more impressive players for her in the preseason, so she is very excited to see what he does with LA.
Yeah.
I'm less excited because I still want him to be wearing a DC United jersey, but such is life.
We've moved on. Chris Durkin's got it now.
Sure. And then you could probably do the rest of the roster from there. Ola Kamara, who we talked about yesterday, will be up top. Gio Dos Santos behind him. Alessandrini on the right. Jonathan Dos Santos in the middle. The other question mark remains Sebastian Lletget. Is he back to full fitness? It seems like he is and will be ready to start the season. If he's not, then it will be Chris Pontius or Emma Boateng.
I forgot Chris Pontius had signed.
He sure did.
I'm excited for Sebastian Lletget. This is a weird take, but I think if Sebastian Lletget had stayed healthy, the US would have qualified for the World Cup.
It's a safe bet.
Bruce Arena had his favourites like Omar Gonzalez, but Lletget I thought was a good favourite because he's like energetic and go get him and offers something going forward and coming backwards. I think he would have added a lot to the US men's national team if he hadn't got injured playing for the US men's national team. I'm sure LA Galaxy fans feel the same.
I'm sure they do too, and also maybe wish he'd been there last season.
Yeah.
But maybe that gives them a little bit more of an excuse. Two final things on LA I wanted to note. There are still question marks.
Two final things?
Yeah. The one is that there's still some question marks around the defense. For example, as I said, Ashley Cole, likely to start, is 37 years old. So
37 years experienced is what you mean?
Sure, that could be. Fechler, something like that, came in and he'll be the starting right back. Felcher, I think it is. Starting right back, but again, he has...
watching Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, why not? Sure. And then you also have David Bingham in there, who they declined the option on all three of their starting goalkeepers, are going with him. Don't really have like a proven backup, and he had some howlers last year, so there are some question marks. But my final point is my final prediction, which is that if they sign Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they will regret bringing him in.
Ouch, why?
I do not think that is a very good signing for them. Because Ola Kamara is not a back-to-the-goal, hold-up play, let everybody run off of him. He is a find space in behind, be very crafty, time his runs well.
That's why I thought the Ola Kamara and Gio Dos Santos partnership will work much, much better than anything has in the past for LA, because Ola Kamara will stretch and Gio can work underneath. Yeah, you're right. Zlatan maybe mixes that up a little bit.
And I think then, you could say, do you play the two of them together, but then somebody else will have to sit? I don't know who sits out of the 11 that I just listed. Does Zlatan want to sit and come on as a second choice?
Well, wasn't that was my suggestion, is that when we saw how much he was rumoured to be getting paid, which wasn't like the the Sebastian Giovinco money, it was more like some TAM money, right? So that means he'd be earning a max of 1.5 million, which is low for Zlatan. It was almost going to be like a part-time contract, where maybe he does just kind of take it easy, do a tour of LA, then come off the bench.
Yeah, and again, I just don't know if that's
go to La Brea Tar Pits.
I'm sure they'll be happy with the jersey sales. I still don't quite know how you make it work without having to have two entirely different game plans, and that's not something I think the Galaxy can necessarily afford this season.
Fair enough. Oh, can I ask you as a Man United fan?
Yeah.
Is Zlatan fit right now? Could it be so he's just not fit?
I think I think he's been on the bench a couple times and maybe could have come on, but I think he still has some issues, not necessarily relating to that ACL surgery, but still injured at the moment.
So maybe one of the reasons for the delay is that he's just not fit to play, not ready to go.
Maybe the Galaxy are slightly skittish about signing former Manchester United players who might be injured coming into the season. David Beckham?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Although that did work out pretty well for them. So. But anyway, Thomas Hoyodar say starting, don't sign Zlatan.
That's your advice?
Yeah.
Should we stay in Los Angeles?
Sure.
I've got the new team, LAFC. LAFC, which we talked about before the show and said, even though they're not officially an expansion team, I don't think, because they're sort of replacing Chivas USA.
Weird, right?
They're basically an expansion team, right? New ownership group, whole new staff, a whole new players, whole new coach, right? So it's Bob Bradley with an expansion team. So the prediction should be they're going to win MLS Cup, because that's what happened last time Bob Bradley had an expansion team.
All right.
His Chicago Fire team came in, won MLS Cup.
I was going bold. It's a big prediction. Should we move on?
That's not my prediction, though. That's not my prediction, because I actually feel a little weird about this team. A lot of really good pieces that we'll talk about in a second, but it feels to me like LAFC is not a complete team yet. And I can't tell if that's because it could be three things. It could be one, that they actually aren't because they haven't signed enough players yet.
That would be a big
one. There were rumours of them signing players today, and the season kicks off in 3 days, right?
They only signed 6 more players 4 days ago.
Yeah. Oh, I got an update today that maybe that Hugh Roberts signing didn't happen. We're very excited about the Hugh Roberts signing. It's not. There's still no official confirmation yet. There's only AngelsOnParade.com reported it. there's no official LAFC.com release or anything about Hugh Roberts.
That just means they probably haven't finalized the roster yet, right?
Hopefully. Okay. I'm really hoping that Hugh Roberts
I'm saying he's there, and I'm good with that.
You believe it in your heart.
And I think he's starting captain for them as well.
There we go. Mm-hmm. If they've got any sense.
In 4 different positions he's starting, I heard.
Yeah, the whole back four is Hugh Roberts. Just lay down. You can cover all 4.
He's tall enough.
Okay, so but is it that they sort of actually haven't finished putting the team together? They've left it late because the season kicks off soon. Is it just that I haven't watched them play, so it's hard to... I was told to do an expansion team, especially if they weren't an NASL team or something before. It's really hard to conceptualize them as an actual team until they're on the field, right? They're almost not real till you see them playing an official game. Or is it because maybe they haven't put the team together yet properly?
It could be a little bit of all 3.
It could, right?
I still think I'm leaning towards option number 1 the most, that they're still trying to bring in people that they want to... They basically, I feel like they don't want to just fill out the roster. They kind of want to have the big names in there, and they've signed some big names, so I think that makes sense.
They have. Do you want a quick list of the big names?
Sure.
So the biggest name was, I think, the first signing, Carlos Vela.
I've heard of him.
Mentioned him earlier. Former Real Sociedad player. He's also been with Arsenal for a little while. He's played many, many times on and off for the Mexican national team. He is a really good player. I think this is a high-level Major League Soccer signing.
That is a Ross and Rachel sort of relationship he has with the Mexican national team, isn't it?
We'll see how it ends.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any spoilers for Friends.
They were on a break.
They were on a long break. So Carlos Vela, I think, is going to light it up in Major League Soccer. My first very specific prediction is that the first goal of LAFC season will be via the outside of Carlos Vela's foot. So he does a lot of really good stuff where he runs at a defence and they don't know which way he's going to go, and he'll often lean a defence one way and then poke a pass through or slip a pass through with the outside of his foot. He also likes an outside of the foot finish. So I feel like he's going to take someone by surprise outside of the foot for an assist or a goal to open LAFC scoring for the season.
I like this.
You like it?
I like that plan. I like that approach. I like that prediction.
Other signings they've made, Diego Rossi, who I don't know much about, but he's apparently an exciting young Uruguayan attacker. So this is Bob Bradley sort of taking a look at how Major League Soccer works in 2018 and saying, oh, young South Americans, let's do that.
Why not?
Let's sign a bunch of those. But also some MLS-savvy players like Marco Orenia. You know Marco Orenia, right? Never shows up big in the goal-scoring charts, always shows up in the channels and connects play.
Yep.
Costa Rican forward. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, but he then does show up scoring occasionally, and it seems to be very timely interventions.
Like at Red Bull Arena against the United States in the game that probably threw us off the World Cup track.
As with several other games, I've had that professionally removed from my brain.
Okay.
So I can't remember what you're talking about.
Fair enough. The other thing I'm really interested in is how LAFC are going to play. Everything I've heard, and Bobby Warshaw has swayed me on this, I think he's served me a lot of Kool-Aid on this, is the idea that Bob Bradley's LAFC is going to be a more pure expression of what Bob Bradley wants to do, and they're going to be a more possession-oriented team, which is kind of what he wanted to do with Swansea, but it was a bad idea because they were not good enough to do that in the Premier League. And then it didn't end well.
Yeah, it didn't go so well.
But one of the things that's happened is Bob Bradley for LAFC has signed Benny Feilhaber, and Benny Feilhaber is not going to play as a number 10, and he's not going to have to press like when he was playing for Sporting KC. Benny Feilhaber is going to be basically Andrea Pirlo.
I was going to say that he's the new Andrea Pirlo.
He is. So one of my predictions was going to be that there'll be a headline.
Pirlo for Juventus, right? That's what we're talking about here?
Yes, not for New York City FC. Or for Milan, even.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, right? So even Pirlo, in his early days with Inter, was a number 10 attacking midfielder. But in his early 20s, he was moved back to that deep-lying role. It's a little later in the day for Benny Feilhaber because he's 33 right now. So he's making this move late, but not too late. He'll absolutely be able to do that. I really like this idea. He won't have the pressing responsibility. It's easier to pass from deep than it is up front, right?
Yeah.
So that's why my very specific... Oh, you got a question?
Go ahead, and then I'll ask you my question.
Were you going to ask me what my prediction is?
No.
My very specific prediction is that Benny Feilhaber, because he's playing farther away from goal on a possession-based team and he's not trying so many through balls, he will have his best season in terms of numbers for total passes and pass completion rate.
Okay.
So in the past, his very best ever season, which was 2017, just so happens, was an average of 49.2 passes per game and an average of 83.1% completion rate. I think he's going to do a lot more than that from his deep line role with LAFC. He's going to beat both those numbers for a career best passing stats season.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll be fun to watch.
I like also, I'm just going to say this now, hype trains don't have to just be about young players. I feel like Dale Grove might be the conductor of the Benny Feilhaber hype train.
Yes.
Because you predicted last year that he would be
hype train.
Rejuvenated, that he will want to earn a spot with the U.S. men's national team, so he's going to have a blistering start. You were all about Benny Feilhaber then. It seems like you're all about Benny Feilhaber now.
I wasn't fully wrong with that Feilhaber was on the roster towards the end of the World Cup campaign.
There you go.
And
So, well, I think you had some like specific numbers that were going to happen, but either way, I think you get like half credit for it. My question for you is this, though.
Yeah.
I tried to do a little bit of reading about the teams that you were previewing, just so I wasn't just like, and who were they? Mm-hmm. And I kept everything I read about LAFC. I kept sort of reading something and then thinking, Bob Bradley is their head coach, and then I'd go back and read something and be like, Bob Bradley is their head coach. Does this feel like a Bob Bradley team to you?
No, and I think it's because of that sort of young South American thing. That makes it a Bob Bradley team in that he's looked at what works in MLS and where you get your value for money. And so, for example, like he knows Benny Feilhaber, right? He picked Benny Feilhaber for the US men's national team. I believe he took him to the World Cup in 2010. And he's done that deep line role, but he's put alongside him a young South American, Eduard Atuesta is I think he's a 20-year-old Colombian defensive midfielder who's going to provide the bite. But I imagine, I haven't seen this guy play, I imagine that Bradley has got value for money on that sort of young South American defensive mid.
All right. And they've got good hats.
They do have good hats. Yes. Did you see the Max Bretos thing?
Yes, I did.
So they'll have good announcers as well. When you do we won't get to see it, but when you see the local broadcast.
What more could you want? Yeah. And I'll immediately answer to beat the Galaxy in their first game. I'm guessing is going to be a goal for LAFC.
Final little prediction. Omar Gaber, who is a sort of Bob Bradley favourite from his days with the Egyptian national team. He's played for FC Basel, so he's been and played in Europe. Bob Bradley favourite. He's going to be a right back or right mid or defensive midfielder. I think he's going to sort of make LAFC the most popular MLS team in Egypt.
Okay. First of all, that would be good.
I have no way to measure that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
That's good. Make that prediction. We'll track somebody. That's the second instance of a former national team manager bringing in players that they know and trust.
Mean, this just happens in the whole world, right?
See, there we go.
Look at Nuno at Wolves. Took over, a bunch of Portuguese players come in.
Yeah, but again, the national team part is what I'm saying. Is like a former national team manager bringing in the national team players. That's not something I thought was so common, but apparently it is.
Yep.
Not as common for Minnesota United, who do not have a former national team manager and do have some question marks. So shall we move to them, Mr. Grove?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll try to add some suspense to it.
So I feel like from everything I've seen on social media today and some of the articles I've read, it's been kind of Minnesota fans getting a little beat up and a little bit like, oh boy,
really?
This is going to be rough. Yeah. The MLS soccer folks were not so convinced about them, and I am not going to disagree.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I said LA had the second worst goals against record. That's because Minnesota had the third worst expected goals, second fewest shots. They were like only 10 points off the playoffs, but it was a big
Shit, only
gap.
10 points?
Yes.
That's quite a lot.
Yes, but I think a lot of other teams have
3 1/3 wins.
That's just 3 wins, baby. But I think a lot of other teams who were behind them or didn't make the playoffs have improved significantly. I think Minnesota have improved, but I don't think enough that it's going to make a massive difference for them.
Okay.
With that said, my prediction last year was that Abu Danladi, who is the draft pick, would come in and would electrify that team. He would get a combined 20 goals and assists. He did not get that. Let me see what he got here. I think he was close to it, but not quite there, which was massively disappointing. 8 goals, 3 assists in 27 appearances. I'm doubling down. I'm making the exact same prediction this season, that he will get 20 combined goals and assists.
Okay.
There are reasons for this that I will tell you.
I think it's more like me than you to double down on a prediction that went wrong.
Well, it's
I love it.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate that. Second of all, 8 and 3, that's 11.
I feel like I've made you more foolish over the years.
Or just more
optimistic.
More optimistic. Yeah. I believe more, Daryl. More heart. I also did a Pert Hatley moment just then, and you missed it. 8 plus 3 is 11, is what I just said, as though that was groundbreaking knowledge. But I think it's because as I said, there are some question marks, and there are people who are thinking that maybe you're going to get Christian Ramirez and Abu Danladi on the field together in different combinations. Bobby Warshaw had it as like Danladi on the right, cutting inside, or maybe in a 4-4-2. There have also been suggestions, Matt Doyle said it today, that Christian Ramirez might be benched in favor of Abu Danladi. I'm not sure where those reports are coming from, because he seemed to be the man who kind of kept them in contention last season with his goal-scoring rate.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I think either way, you're going to get more minutes from Abu Danladi, and I think he is going to capitalize on those minutes and get you those 20 goals and assists.
Plus, Christian Ramirez will be tired from playing for the US men's national team.
I mean, obviously.
I still think that could happen this year.
No, well, yeah. I mean, stranger things have happened, and there are lots of opportunities, it seems. quick few points about Minnesota before we move on, just the general picture, is that, again, like I said, they haven't really strengthened in a way that a lot of other clubs have in terms of bringing in big names and like very talented players. They brought in players like, say, Tyrone Mears, who is fine. He'll start it right back for them, but he is not like... And I
like the idea of Tyrone Mears, who is fine.
I mean, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
it's like
no, I don't disagree.
It's a very, I'll say it this way, as a DC fan, it is an approach that DC have done for many years.
Yep.
It's like,
Tyrone Mears could have totally been a DC United signing in the past couple of years.
I mean, if I told you, like, oh yeah, he signed there, I know you did the research for them, but you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds very familiar. And then the other issues, you've got Miguel Ibarra is probably going to start on the left, Kevin Molino in the middle. That's not his natural position. So they might be looking at a number 10. Sam Cronin was expected to be the defensive midfielder. He is having some concussion issues. He had the same issues last year, so he might not be able to start. So it just seems like
or does Major League Soccer have more concussion issues than other leagues?
Well, I'm choosing, again, I'm going to go the optimistic route here.
Steve Birnbaum.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go the optimistic route here, and I'm going to say that this is probably naive, so I know that maybe they're better about diagnosing and taking that stuff seriously as opposed to, yeah, you got to tough it out. This is the way it goes.
So maybe it's just we're more aware of it and it gets treated as opposed to it actually just happens more.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. But also, I mean, you're going to have those issues in any professional sports league where there is contact. So I'm hoping that it gets addressed and isn't sort of like, hey, we're struggling, get back in here. But I think Minnesota probably will struggle even if Sam Cronin is in the starting lineup for them. So I'm going to end it on a positive note. I'm just going to say Ethan Finley joined mid-season last year.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm not going to make a prediction about
it. Is he bedding in?
He's done bedded in, but I think
and he's ready to bloom.
He'll be blooming this season. I think he will have a good season. I'm not going to make any predictions about it because I don't want to say like he's going to score this many goals or he'll get called out of the national team. I think that might be harder than you think this season, but I think he will have significant contributions to that Minnesota attack.
Okay. All right. I have three more teams to preview.
Oh, and Demidov is gone. they paid off his contract as quickly as they could. Started 3 games.
Did they pass the hat?
Yeah, they must have. Started 3 games. He was their captain going into the season. They were the 3 worst losses of their season.
Wow.
He is done.
Poor guy. I've got a fact for you about Minnesota. Average temperature is 55.1 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the average temperature of another city that I would be able to gauge that against?
Don't know.
So why do you know that?
Because it's the name of the website, 55.1.
There we go.
Okay, so I've got 3 more teams to preview. I assume you have at least 3 more teams to preview. I can't remember how many teams are in the Western Conference. How many you got?
I've got 3 more.
You got 3 more?
Yeah.
So there's 12 in the Western Conference.
You got it.
Yeah.
Look at you. Fred Hapley.
Hey.
Yay.
But first, today's show is sponsored by Fucci, our old friends at Fucci, one of the original sponsors of the Total Soccer Show. If you want to support the Total Soccer Show, show some love to one of our original sponsors. What do Fucci make, Taylor?
They make the highly engineered soccer rebounder.
They certainly do.
Soccer and squash. You set it up. It doesn't take much time at all. Definitely want to bring a hammer so you can nail the stakes into the ground.
Depends how hard your ground is. Actually, now's a good time of year, right? There's a little softness in the ground right now.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Still might be frozen. Frozen ground.
It depends where you live, right?
Yes.
If you're in Minnesota.
Exactly. That average temperature is lower than 55.1.
Maybe some indoor Fucci in Minnesota.
But you can set it up fairly quickly, especially if you've got the right tools. Get to playing right away. It allows you to improve your skills, but also still socialize and have a little bit of fun. And again, film yourself and post it to YouTube like a jackass.
I have never done anything like that. So the way it works is you play the ball against the net, it bounces back.
It sure does.
So the segment that we have Fucci sponsor is who is going to be the bounce back player in Major League Soccer of 2018? Who had a bad 2017? They're going to bounce back Fucci style in 2018.
Would you like me to go first?
Yes, please.
I've already mentioned his name. It's Sebastian Lletget. I think he is going to have a big season for LA and on a personal note for himself. I read he wrote a very long sort of like this is my struggle about coming back from that injury. He wrote a very nice piece that I thought was very, very good and kind of conveyed all of the work that has gone into getting himself ready to start the season, but also how much he did not enjoy the injury, the U.S. national team struggles, LA struggles, and I think he's got a lot to prove.
Oh, yeah, he had 2 bad teams that were waiting for him, basically.
Yep, and so I think he wants to come in, hit the ground running, hopefully not too aggressively, doesn't re-injure the foot, but I think he's going to have a lot to prove and is going to be trying to prove it throughout this season.
I've actually got 2 players that I couldn't split the difference between. Tommy Redding, who has moved from Orlando, where he was promising but like sort of underperformed.
Yep.
He's now going to be playing for New York Red Bulls with that sort of exciting pressing style, where his comfort on the ball, I think, could be a huge plus. Tommy Redding, really highly rated defender, so I want to see him bounce back for 2018 with a new team.
It's a fair shout.
Miles Robinson. Do you know that name?
No.
So Miles Robinson is a centre-back for Atlanta United. They drafted him out of... So he played 2 years at Syracuse, but he's one of those players that thought, all right, I've done 2 years in college. I'm kind of dominant in college. I'm winning everything at centre-back. I'm going to go play MLS. Plays for, the cool new team, Atlanta. Then he doesn't play.
Yep.
He's on the Atlanta roster, but he gets overlooked. He doesn't play at all. Guys like Michael Parkhurst, who's obviously very good, but sort of is coming more towards the end of his career than Miles Robinson at the beginning. So Miles Robinson, I would say, needs to bounce back and just basically get some minutes for Atlanta this season. Even maybe Atlanta United too, but hopefully some first-team actual MLS minutes because he's a highly rated former US youth national team defender.
All right. But does he need to work on his soccer/squash abilities?
I mean, if he did,
okay,
I know what he could do.
What could he do, Daryl?
He could go to playfuchi.com or he could click the link in the show notes where you can see the Fuchi Rebounder, Fuchi T-shirts, Fuchi Caps and Fuchi Prints. You can buy all of those and you can get a 15% discount with the code TSS 2018, TSS 2018.
So that applies to both the Fuchi Rebounder, also all of the Fuchi apparel in that store.
So you get fully kitted out and play.
And then go play.
And get 15%.
And it helps you. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like you build your suit of armor of Fuchi things and go play soccer.
So don't pay full price like a normal. That would be like
a normal.
Yeah, that would be like trying to sort of trade for a player in MLS and you give away all your draft picks and all your allocation money. Use the discount code to get a better deal.
I feel like some teams have done that, but I'll just say instead, thank you to Fuchi for sponsoring today's program.
That's how Adrian Heath got Kevin Molino.
Yeah.
You didn't use the discount code.
I do want to say one more thing before we move on. Again, thank you to Fuchi. I want to say thank you to our table friend here because in listening back to our 2017 Western Conference predictions, that was recorded the day after we had been here until 4 o'clock in the morning setting up this table with all of the issues. It's been a year. Yeah, he's 1 year old today.
Because I remember there was a weird coincidence where we did the Eastern Conference on the sort of old card table that we recorded on and the Western Conference on the solid table.
Yes, and it was great because in the show we were both very excited about our new table and then there's like a half-second pause and then we both comment on the fact that the old table is still in the room. Not anymore.
Where is it now?
I think it's in my backyard.
Okay.
Holding up firewood.
So it's got a new job.
As you do.
It's got a new job. It moved on.
Yeah, sure.
It retrained. That's good stuff.
It went from a soft life inside to a hard life outside.
We hope it's happy.
It's an outdoor table now.
So is it? I'm up next, right? You did Minnesota. So I am previewing the Portland Timbers. It is a post-Caleb Porter world up in Oregon. It's a whole new Portland Timbers.
Weird.
The new coach is Gio Savarese, the New York Cosmos coach. He won, I believe, 3 NASL championships. He went to 4 championship games. He made the New York Cosmos really dominant in NASL. With a sort of, I would call it, from what I read, because I didn't watch a lot of New York Cosmos, I apologise, I'm sorry to say, they were called the Cardiac Cosmos because they sort of got your heart racing and possibly gave opposition teams cardiac arrest with the heavy, heavy hard work they put into you.
First of all, don't steal nicknames from the Cleveland Browns because
they
were the Cardiac Kids. But it's fine, whatever. I'll let it slide.
Yeah, I guess it might be a play on that term.
That could be.
So the
might have been the Heart Attack Kids. Either way, Cardiac was involved.
As well as Caleb Porter leaving, Darlington Nagbe has left, taking his 1-2s and his gliding running style to Atlanta United, where I think he'll fit in very nicely.
I would say so.
The good news for Portland fans is, even if you're missing Darlington Nagbe, you've got a fun new player to watch. The new signing, I believe he's a DP, is Peruvian Andy Polo. Andy Polo, Polo. Do you have the mints here, Polo mints?
I do not.
So it's spelled the exact same way.
I don't know.
Andy
We
Polo.
have the clothing company.
I think...
Clothing brand?
I think you're going to love Andy Polo because you love a cut, right? Don't you often talk about how the best move in soccer, the best trick in soccer, isn't like something fancy? It's just a cut where you change direction quickly.
I think literally last week we talked about that.
Yes, on the show or in
on
practice?
the show.
Yeah. So he does this at pace. I watched some highlights of Andy Polo playing for Morelia, the Monarchas in Liga MX. He dribbles at very high pace and then cuts at a quick pace. And a lot of people ended up on their butt. So I think there's going to be a highlight. There's going to be an MLS highlight where Andy Polo puts someone on a butt with a cut.
That's outstanding work by you, Mr. Grove. Well done. Well done.
So he'll be exciting to watch. That's great news for Portland Timbers fans. My other very specific prediction is Jeremy Ebobisse, who is a player we're both kind of excited about but didn't always get enough minutes, will score his first good-looking Major League Soccer goal.
Has he scored bad ones?
He scored 1 Major League Soccer goal for Portland last season, and it was just a sort of ball fired into the box, and he kind of just stuck his foot out and redirected it. Good sort of, nose for goal strikers type goal. But he's capable of much more than that, right?
But he didn't go full Chicharito, is what I'm saying.
No, it wasn't full Chicharito.
It
wasn't full Chicharito. But he's had assists where he's like backheeled it to teammates. I've forgotten who it was. The Argentinian winger whose name escapes me.
Blanco?
Yes, he backheeled it to Blanco to score. So Abobase's got some like nice, smooth moves, and I think he'll finally get a chance to use some of those in front of goal this season.
All right.
He's got some competition. Fernando Adi is still there.
Yep.
I keep looking for his transfer. It keeps not happening. Fernando Adi will be Adi smashing his way through at least the first half of 2018.
I think forever. He will be there forever.
You think forever?
Much like Diego Fagundes with the New England Revolution. They're
right,
just there.
They're
just there forever.
There's also a new player, Samuel Armenteros. I do not know much about him, but I know that he makes it harder for Obobase to get himself on the field. But I've got faith in young Americans.
Speaking of which, Eric Williamson in there, yeah?
Yes, Eric Williamson was a DC United, could have been a DC United homegrown player. They traded his rights to Portland Timbers. He will not start, but he will probably play.
I think that will end up being a very smart decision for him, because you look at DC and how many, we talked about this yesterday, how many people they have in the midfield.
Stacked midfield,
Yeah,
right?
I think it makes sense to go somewhere else and maybe challenge for minutes there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then, just in case you're wondering, Diego Valeri and Chara are both still there. So some of the old spine of the Porter team is there, but it's going to be a new look Portland Timbers for 2018. Again, I'm interested to see what this looks like when we start the season.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to the Portland Timbers. Good luck to RSL, Real Salt Lake, unless you've got more.
Marco Farfan, just got to get a mention for Farfan. He might start at left back. He very well might start at left back for Portland Timbers.
That would be good with me. I would have no problem with that. So you mentioned it's a new look Portland Timbers. It is a new look RSL in the sense that it is, I can't remember if this was the Doyle point or if it was American Soccer Analysis or one of the other many previews, but it was basically, it is new faces doing familiar things, because it will be a Mike Petke team doing Mike Petke things, but it's maybe not some of the same RSL faces that you have come to expect. Or maybe those faces will do it fewer. Speaking of Mike Petke, I'm going to add that I did get that prediction point where I said that he will finish the season as their manager, because at the time
he started off as the Royals coach, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And it just felt like you are parking him there in case things do not go well. Things did not go well. Petke came in. Petke turned things around. And I think he will continue to turn things around this season. I guess continue on the right way.
That would be going back the other way, right?
And that leads to my first prediction, which is that Alfredo Ortuño, who I'm guessing you probably have never heard of, and that is justifiable, he will score more goals than any individual player did for RSL in 2017. That's because they had 4 different players score 7 goals, but that was the most of any player. So I think he will exceed that with some ease, I would also say.
Okay.
Ortuño,
give me his name again.
Sure. Alfredo Ortuño, 27-year-old Spanish striker. Basically, he is a bottom of La Liga, top of La Liga 2 or Segunda Division.
Yeah.
That's like where he has played most of his career. But he's going to come in, be the physical striker up top that they have been lacking. Okay.
So my one piece of interest with Real Salt Lake is Justin Glad, Danilo Costa, and Brooks Lennon. How are we looking for my kids there? And Sebastian Saucedo.
From everything I've read, we're looking at one of those 3 starting, and that one is Justin Glad. It sounds...
Because he's the best?
I did not know this, but apparently DeMar Phillips has supplanted Denny Acosta as the starting left back, at least in the short term.
Ooh.
And then Brooks Lennon is either...
Clint Dempsey probably has something to say about that.
Yeah. He's probably going to shout and just be like, hey... How's that working out for you? Trash talking from last year. And then it will probably be João Plata and Savarino starting out wide with Albert Rusnak in the middle.
No Brooks Lennon?
So I think Brooks Lennon is maybe you're looking at some substitute appearances, some occasional starts. I still have a feeling that he's going to play himself into a starting spot by the end of the season, mostly because I really like him and I want more young Americans playing there. Speaking of that, I have another interesting prediction for you, which is that Adam Henley will start getting considerable U.S. men's national team buzz. I'm assuming you don't know who that is.
Is he?
Because I had no idea.
Welsh / American who used to play for Blackburn Rovers.
You have got it. How do you know these things?
I watch a lot of soccer.
You are wise, my friend. Yes, so Tony Beltran has been the consistent starter for them at right back in years past. He's still out with a knee injury, will be out for the first half of the season, so it seems like Adam Henley will be starting. As you said, Welsh right back, many appearances for Blackburn.
Can also play left back.
Yes, he can, and might do both of those things. But he was born
Not at the same time.
No, probably not. Born in Knoxville, I believe, Tennessee, to an American father, Welsh mother. Then they moved to Wales / England. That's why he has the experiences there. He's been capped twice by Wales at senior level, both in friendlies, played for them at youth national team level.
So he could one-time switcheroo.
He would have to. And now that he's playing here, maybe that is slightly more likely.
Yep.
Maybe we start to hear a little bit more buzz because I think he will get playing time for RSL, who I think will be good this season.
I'll be honest, even if he's pretty good, we've got so many youngsters coming through at fullback now. Like I mentioned Sam Vines earlier.
Yeah, it's weird.
We've got Reggie Cannon, right back. I kind of think we're sort of okay. I think there's a generation of teenagers who will soon be men that are going to be good enough to especially because we've got so far before we have big tournaments.
Yeah.
I think we've got time.
I think we do too. Through. I think it's more what I would prefer to see from the U.S. national team is an aggressive approach to, is this kid eligible? Let's look at him. Does he seem good enough? If so, let's start doing the paperwork. Let's start making those wheels turn because we want as much depth as possible. So we're not sort of looking at like, well, we've got this guy playing right back, but he could play left back. And then DeMarcus Beasley is there. Like, I would like more options out there.
I didn't mention in my Houston preview, of course, DeMarcus Beasley will be playing left back.
Of course he will. And we love DeMarcus Beasley, but
that's also true for the 2020 MLS.
But I've also loved DeMarcus Beasley since 2002. Yeah. So maybe it's time for some other players to come in and challenge and have more depth and not just have it be like, oh, well, he's injured. Now we're in trouble.
Anything else on Real Salt Lake?
No, other than Albert Rusnak, team MVP, team Golden Boot winner. He is back. Will continue to have a strong season. Didn't have a strong season as I would have liked in terms of, I think I said he would have a goal of the week. He didn't. He did score goals. I think, again, he will continue to do that. I think RSL will be very much on the rebound this year.
Final thing for me is Justin Glad. I think I've been watching more and more of him, especially I researched a bit more for the MLS draft that I did with Travis for Top Draw Soccer Show. Yeah. I'm really high on Justin Glad. Yeah. I think I've seen some videos of him
with justification
talking. The way he communicates is like my kind of centre back. I think he's kind of the full package. I think he'll finally get his US men's national team debut at some point this year.
It blows my mind that he hasn't yet. I kind of forgot that.
He was another one that was called up to January camp and then let go, along with Acosta and Brooks Lennon.
Man.
Yeah.
All right. See, there's optimism. There's reasons to watch and be excited. All right. I feel better. About things. Where are we moving next, Daryl Grove?
San Jose.
Let's do it.
San Jose Earthquakes. So here's my very specific prediction from the top. San Jose fans will do the Viking clap this season.
Okay.
Here's why. Their new coach is Michael Stara. He is a Swedish person.
So that means they're going to do it?
And the first DP that he signed is Magnus Eriksson. He's a winger / forward. He's come over from, played in I forgot the name of the Swedish league, but the top level of the Swedish league. Yes. Got a mohawk, proper sort of Viking look. When you remember you did your list of Viking players for Paste magazine, he would have made this list.
All right.
If things go well with Eriksson...
Is there a beard in there?
No, but a really strong mohawk.
That's detrimental.
Strong mohawk. Between Stara and Eriksson, I think you'll get some San Jose players doing the Viking clap this season.
I like it.
My next prediction is about San Jose's captain, Chris Wondolowski.
Okay.
He's just been named captain again by the new coach, which is another coach showing their faith in Chris Wondolowski. It can't be that all US men's national team fans are right and all professional coaches are wrong.
You never know.
Right? People keep trusting him because he's a trustworthy player. He is 11 goals behind Landon Donovan for the all-time Major League Soccer top goal scorer.
I would like to be slightly more critical of what you just said about Chris Wondolowski, except that I read Bobby Warshaw's article about him, which has a very aggressive title.
I saw the headline, but I didn't click it.
He has a lot of smart things to say about how to be a goal scorer, and it is definitely worth reading, especially if you
is it a Wondolowski interview?
I think it's like an article about him, but it has quotes from him, and it talks about like how he, like the things that he prioritizes when he's starting up top trying to score goals.
Okay. All right. So, to his goal scoring. He currently has 134 goals, which ties him with Jeff Cunningham for second all-time top goal scorer in Major League Soccer. Landon Donovan is out ahead with 145. All right, so he's 11 goals behind the all-time top scorer. Wando's last 4 seasons, this is how many goals he's scored. 14, 16, 12, 13. My very specific prediction is
broke
that
his even number drought.
Frustratingly, he will score an odd number of goals.
There we go.
He'll score 11 goals. He'll finish joint top scorer with Landon Donovan. And then we'll all be like, waiting for that last goal, and it won't quite come, at least not this season. Can you just see that happening?
I can, but I don't want to see it happening because I feel like San Jose will be good and score lots of goals.
Yeah. And then what will happen is there'll be a story in like December 2018, and Wondolowski's 35, so I think he'll be deciding: do I go another season or do I hang up the boots? And someone will say to him, "Just go one more. You just need one goal to catch Landon Donovan." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll be persuaded to go. He'll be persuaded to go 2019 just to get that goal.
If they're playing on the final day against LAFC and he's on 11 goals, you have to wonder if LAFC are like, yeah, go ahead, score. Go ahead, score.
Suddenly, Walker's and will just step out the way. So there you go. Wondolowski, 11 goals is my specific prediction. Also, this is not so specific, but I think San Jose will become my favourite play your kids team.
Okay.
Because they've got Tommy Thompson.
There it is.
Who's a favourite? Oh, were you timing it?
I was timing how long it would take you to get to Tommy Thompson.
I was actually thinking of asking you, did you know your watch is beeping? We're recording.
Yep.
How long did it take me?
I think it was like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. Bad. Yeah.
So Tommy Thompson and Jackson Ewell, neither of whom are guaranteed to be in the starting 11 for Michael Stara, but both of whom have become really reliable players in a way that maybe they didn't used to be. I was watching a lot of Jackson Ewell this very morning, once again for the Top Drawer Soccer Show. I'm a believer. First of all, I think Jackson Ewell should have gone to the U20 World Cup, and I'm a little frustrated that he didn't in hindsight. But all the highlights I saw...
We'll add him to the list of names.
Yeah. All the highlights I saw is a kid who knows how to pick out a pass. This is a guy who can maintain possession of the ball and can pick out really dangerous through balls and passes. Jackson Ewell should be playing centre midfield. He's only 20 years old, but I think maybe this is the year that he'll kind of establish himself as a regular with San Jose. Also, Tommy Thompson will have his best ever year in terms of numbers.
Okay.
He's already had his best ever year.
I feel like you do this, and it's always like he scored 2 goals last year.
Well, so last year, last year he got 1 goal, 4 assists. That was his best ever year because he previously hadn't put anything on the board for San Jose, right? He played 33 times, but only started 17 times. I think all those numbers, maybe not the total played, but the starts, the goals, and the assists will all go up this year. And we'll start to see the real Tommy Thompson.
Okay.
Or the mature professional Tommy Thompson who gets trusted.
And all his fellow youngsters around him?
At least with Jackson Ewell, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Anything else for San Jose?
As the fans, Viking
do
clap.
Their Viking
clap away.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for San Jose?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, then we shall move north from San Jose to Seattle, who I last night dubbed the Seattle might try to reinforce Sounders. And this is where one of my predictions has already happened. It was that Seattle would basically sign another center back because they did not have the depth that I thought they would need, and then they went and did that last night. Or I think they might have done that before I even started researching them, but I just didn't see it until after I had started writing. And that was because they have Chad Marshall and Roman Torres. Those are going to be your starters. Chad Marshall's 33, Roman Torres 31. They'll be a combined age of 66 midway through the season. Roman Torres also leaving for the World Cup. I forget who their backup is. I think it's Aflaro, something like that. But he is a young, like Seattle 2, moving up to the senior team, but not very well proven. They have signed 28-year-old South Korean international Kim Ki-hee, who has played in China for Shanghai Greenland most recently, but is a South Korean international. He may also go to the World Cup, so that could be problematic. Yeah. But I think they've already strengthened there, so that's a good start for Seattle.
Didn't Brad Evans leave? Did I see Brad Evans went to Sporting KC?
You are correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an odd player for Seattle to lose because he just seems so Seattle through and through.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to retool, strengthen. They have Leerdam starting at right back. They have Nuhu on the left. They brought in Waylon Francis to kind of charge both of them a little bit.
Makes sense.
And then it's a lot of what you would already expect. You've got Ozzy Alonso, you've got Christian Roldan, you've got Clint Dempsey, Nico Ladero. The one that obviously won't be there is Jordan Morris.
Yes, I saw the video of how he tore his ACL. He was trying a Trivela at a weird angle.
When you're running at full speed and you try to do that Trivela and it kind of forces you to bend your body in an awkward way, it means you're going to fall and strain something.
And it really worries me that, because Jordan Morris is so much about pace, ACL is kind of famous for taking away a bit of your pace, right? And I feel rough being negative on Jordan Morris. He's my fellow T1D. So
I forgot about that.
I want the best for him, but I'm really concerned about this injury.
And I think you're not the only one. I'm guessing Seattle fans are as well. Not at least because you kind of lose that major scoring option. It was supposed to be Jordan Morris either starting ahead of or playing alongside Will Bruin. So now it's basically just Will Bruin up top. It means Victor Rodriguez is going to be out on the left. They signed Magnus Wolf Eikram, who's a former Man United Academy product, who I remember liking when he played for Manchester United, so that's good for them. But I still don't think they have that one other piece that they're going to need. And so I'm going to make a similar prediction to what I made for Seattle last season, which is that they will sign another attacker within the first 2 months of the season.
They did say that because of the Morris injury, they're on the lookout for a new striker.
And I think they probably should be, because Jordan Morris is obviously out. Clint Dempsey will be 35. He's on a 1-year option. Will Bruin is the only obvious number 9 up top. So it makes sense to even bring in a long-term attacking option given those issues that I just mentioned.
Yeah, because by the time Morris is back, Dempsey might have retired.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's an actual sequence of events that is very likely.
It's a decent possibility. I still think Seattle will be fine. And
Landon Donovan, maybe get him back in.
Maybe slightly younger, but that would be interesting. The only thing I'll say for Seattle Sounders fans...
Wondolowski scores 10 goals, Donovan will be like, get me to an MLS team, fast.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. Right. The thing I'll say to Seattle fans is that if you're worried about Jordan Morris... They kind of had to deal with this last year. They had injuries to Jordan Morris, Ozzie Alonso, Brad Evans. Ozzie Alonso had to take pain-killing injections to be able to play. So they are familiar.
Yeah, the Cooligans yell at him.
Yeah, that too. I forgot about that in Cuban or Cuban Spanish. And so I think that they know how to deal with injury. So you have Gustav Svensson. He might be a holding midfielder. He might be a number 8. He could be a center back. They've got a lot of variety in there to be able to patch and deal with problems. And then obviously they can go out and spend if they need to.
Okay. Anything else before we move to Sporting?
Nope. Other than that, they will sign a center back. They did that. So I'm going to say they will go out and sign another attacking option.
Okay. Sporting KC, still managed by Peter Vermees. Still will sort of get up on you and press you, but still don't seem like a team that's going to sort of score goals and win championships.
I do love that you mentioned, I think I casually read that Brad Evans is at Sporting KC, knowing full well that you were about to do the preview for Sporting KC.
So here's what I know about Sporting KC. They let Fairharbour go.
Yep.
Last year they let Dom Dwyer go. Attacking pieces coming in, I'm not so convinced about. Felipe Gutierrez, I don't know a lot about. Johan Cruyff, I've been reading, has not done that well.
That sounds like a cheap knockoff of Johan Cruyff.
It does, really.
Can't afford Johan Cruyff. Get this one.
That's what it is. They've got fake Johan Cruyff. Budget Johan
Targets,
Cruyff.
American brands.
I'm not sure Diego Rubio has scored that many goals to replace Dom Dwyer, so I'm suddenly a little worried about them. Yeah. But what I think will happen is maybe they will turn to the kids. So my very specific prediction, first one, is that Gianluca Busio, who is right now only 15 years old, but has been playing regularly in pre-season. So this is you're probably going to come back at me about this, but my very simple prediction is Gianluca Busio will score for Sporting KC this season.
Why would I come back at you with that?
I just thought maybe it'd be too simple, but I actually think my counter-argument would be that, he's only 15.
I was going to say, isn't he a teeny tiny baby?
No, that's fine. Scoring in Major League Soccer
bold statement,
would be a great big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think he'll get a chance because the other guys maybe won't be performing.
I will say you have precedent here. Last year you predicted that Eric Palmer-Brown would finish the season as their starting center back. He did play 4 games near the end, but I'm not sure that's established. So you also weren't convinced about Graham Zusi as a right back last year.
Well,
things change?
I think I was proven right.
Yeah.
We do have Jalen Lindsay, who was also signed as a homegrown player. I had a back and forth with Travis, again, on their other show. I recommend listening to it. I thought Lindsay was still 16 and frozen in time. Turns out he's nearly 18.
What?
So Jalen Lindsay is sort of old enough and definitely reliable enough to maybe be given a shot at right back.
Kids these days, man.
Yeah, he's almost half the age of Graham Zusi.
Having the audacity to age.
Final thing, the reason that EPB, Eric Palmer-Brown, didn't get as many games for Sporting KC probably ever, or especially last season, is that Ike Opara finally had an injury-free season for Sporting KC. And when Ike Opara has an injury-free season, he is Major League Soccer Defender of the Year.
Yep.
And then he makes his US men's national team debut finally in January at the age of 28.
And he also references Parks and Recreation?
He does.
Key thing.
He says the correct ranking is Parks and Rec number 1, Office number 2. Yeah. So
British Office number 3.
He's almost there. But yeah, so Ike Opara, I'm a big fan of. I really just think he's a great player, great sort of leader, communicator type guy. My very specific prediction is that he will play for the US men's national team again in 2018.
Yeah.
So January camp. It's easy to be, not easy, it's easier to be a defender in the January camp and play, right? But when everybody's available, I still think Opara gets called up and plays maybe in March, maybe in May, maybe in June. Opara to get another national team cap in 2018.
I mean, he certainly looked good enough when last we saw him. We both liked him a lot, so I am fine with that. And I like your predictions,
There
Daryl.
you go. So Busio to score and Opara to play for the men's national team again.
Final team in the MLS Western Conference is the Vancouver Whitecaps, who I'm going to say had some turnover. They had 16 players leave the club. I want to point this out, that we were very excited to talk about their attacking foursome last year of Brek Shea, Kakutamane, Christian Bolaños, and Freddie Montero. Brek Shea is still there. The other 3 are not. They have either been sold or transferred or
Kakutamane is down
declined.
in Liga MX.
He sure is, after being traded to Columbus for Tony Chani. So I think you're going to see similar things to what you saw from Vancouver last year. lowest possession of any team in Major League Soccer. They average 39.2%. So my second prediction is going to be that they will consistently have less than 50% possession, because I think that might improve a little bit, but I still think it's going to be sit back, bunker, break with the many wingers and many attacking options they have.
You said your second prediction?
Because my first prediction was looking at the depth they have.
This is like a hierarchy as opposed to a chronological order.
Yes. Yeah. So you have Ali Ghazal, you have Tony Chani are going to be or theoretically, we're going to be your two, like number 6, number 8, pivot in a 4-2-3-1. They brought in Efren Juarez, who I was not familiar with. He's a 30-year-old defensive midfielder, can also play right back. 39 caps for Mexico, 74 appearances in 4 seasons for Monterrey. And there's some speculation that he might challenge that midfield partnership. And it got me to thinking, maybe, because from what I read from a lot of the Vancouver posts was that Ghazal and Chani didn't necessarily vibe, even if it seemed like they would. Juarez coming in made me think that one of them was going to go, so I predicted that Tony Chani would be sold. Tony Chani was sold today to the Chicago Fire, or transferred for TAM. So I was a little bit bitter that my final 2 predictions had to be rewritten.
To give you some MLS terminology, I believe traded.
Is it traded for money? Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. So you have that to work with now. You've got Kai Kamara. I think you've probably heard of him. He'll be playing up top
on his North American tour.
Yep, it's what he does.
I believe
man.
It's just his career is just one long travelogue.
This is correct. This is correct.
This is Norwich. This is Middlesbrough. This is Vancouver. This is Columbus. Here's New England.
He's just trying to see it all. But I think with Vancouver, while you know what they're going to look like, you also still have some question marks. Will Tim Parker still be there? He seems to be still trying to force through that move.
Oh, Tim Parker, yes.
Yeah, to whomever will have him. Mm-hmm. They've brought in Aha from Orlando, as I talked about earlier.
Yep.
So maybe that makes way for Tim Parker to move.
Well, wait, Tim Parker, is he like moving to another MLS team, or is he trying to move to Europe?
I think he is trying to force a move to another MLS team,
okay.
I believe. I think the Red Bulls are the ones that have been most widely speculated about.
That would be a good fit.
There's some other names in there too, including DC, but that might just be fans promulgating that idea.
I like the New York Red Bulls Defender Rescue Project.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure they'd be fine with that. And I think he is young. I don't think he has a big salary. I think that'd be a very smart move for the Red Bulls or for anybody. And I think Vancouver really, at least the fans, do not want to see him leave. And I think that is justifiable. Mm-hmm. As I said, you've got Kai Kamara. The other one to keep an eye on is a man by the name of Anthony Blondell. Again, a person I was not familiar with. Freddie Montero gone. He provided the most goals for them. Blondell is a 23-year-old Venezuelan forward, 24 goals in 39 games in the Venezuelan Premier League. Make of that what you will, because I can't say I know much about the Venezuelan Premier League, but that's a good scoring rate.
Probably the top division.
And it seems like he's basically been brought in. I would say so. It's actually second. It's Primera. That's the really special one. But it seems like he's been brought in to push Kai Kamara, so that will be an interesting battle as the season progresses.
I see one winner there.
Yeah.
Either Kai Kamara wins that battle, or Kai Kamara moves on again at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened. I mean, Tony Chani went there last season and is already gone. You never know how quickly they can move people. All
right. There's a lot of predictions to track in there. And more MLS to come this week on Major League Soccer. Sorry, on Major League Soccer. On the Total Soccer Show. It's felt like Major League Soccer week this week.
It felt like a little bit of a soap opera there, the way you announced that one.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's Total Soccer Show, this is like probably late Thursday Total Soccer Show, we are going to do MLS 101. This is if you have terms, Major League Soccer terms that you just don't know what they mean, like what is GAM, what is TAM, what are DPs, anything else. Like someone asked, we already put the spreadsheet out that people can fill in. Someone asked, what is single entity? Which I think is actually a good question because it's like a thing we talk about but never explain. So if you've got anything about Major League Soccer that you want explained, there'll be a link in the show notes. You can put the term or the question that you have. We will answer it, most of them, on Thursday's Total Soccer Show.
All right. I'm going to say one final thing about Vancouver because I feel like...
Oh, sorry, I thought we were over. Yeah, right.
No, we were, but I just realized saying that they averaged 39.2% possession last season and then saying they'll average less than or fewer than 50%, not that bold of a prediction. So I'm going bold, and I'm going to say midfield playmaker Yordi Reyna, their number 10, he will go to the World Cup with Peru. And I'm leaving it there.
All right. Oh, he'll join Polo from Portland.
Yes, but I think he's made the team a few times, but isn't consistent. Is very much on the outside. Maybe could make as the number 22 player on the roster. But I think there's a chance, and I think a solid season will help him make that case.
All right. So Western Conference, consider yourself previewed and predicted.
Yeah.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Taylor and I are off to play indoor soccer.
It's a recurring theme.
Kickoff is in 25 minutes, so we'll get a move on.
I'm wearing jeans.
But thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.